Hey everybody, and welcome back to Lindsay's Little Library. So I'm here today, well, not only with Stormy because he apparently really wants to play. So we'll see if we can get this done. But I'm also here to talk to you about the books that I read in the month of November. Wow, where did November go? Anyways, let's see. I don't know what he's on. Maybe too much catnip today or something. Anyways, I read 5 books in November, which I know I can read more books than that, but I read 2 books that were over 600 pages. So in my mind, like those two books are like 4 books. So, you know, whatever I have to tell myself to make me feel better, right? Anyways, okay, let's talk about what I read. The first book I read, and maybe it wasn't the first book I read, I don't even remember what order, but it was If You Tell by Greg Olson. This was a memoir about the Notick family. I can't think of their last name. Shelley was the mom. And the atrocities, the abuse, the mental abuse and physical abuse and insane events that happened in this family. It talks about 3 sisters that grew up with their mom and dad. And Shelley was this unbelievably controlling, manipulative abuser that loved power over people. I continually had to remind myself that that book it really happened. It wasn't made up, because that's what it felt like. But it was insane. It was let's see, what did I give it? 4 stars. I never want to read a book like that again. Well, I shouldn't say that. I never want to read that book again, because for some reason I'm drawn to those books, even though it feels wrong. But I read it for a book club. It was a really good pick. We had a lot to talk about, but it was really, really good. So I'm gonna go put some pizza in, and I'll be right back to talk about the other book that I read. Okay, pizza's in. We've got time limit now. Another book I picked up in the month of November was Pray for Silence by Linda Castillo. I do remember I was reading this on election night because I thought the title Pray for Silence was an interesting title to be reading on election night. Anyways, this is the second book in Linda Castillo's series where she follows Kate Burkholder, who is a police chief in a very small town in Pennsylvania, Ohio. Anyways, small town in Amish country. So she was formerly Amish, and now she runs the police department there. There's like 5 or 6 police officers. And of course there's murder, there's mystery, there's a whodunit that happened to an Amish family. It is a little gruesome, but still great. Love the relationship that Kate has with her fellow police officers, as well as the FBI agent that comes to help. There's a little tension there. It's fantastic. But 4 stars. I love this. I can't wait to keep going in this series. It's just a really good, like, in-between book for me, these types of books, because you don't have to think a lot. It's just, you know, they're going to be good. They're a little predictable, but it's still fantastic. 4 stars for that one. Then I picked up my first behemoth, which is Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas. I buddy read this with Sarah over at Sarah's Nightstand. So glad I buddy read it, because we were both like confused as to what we were missing, because we kept hearing great things about this book. Not that it was bad, it just was long. Like, it was 600 pages when it probably could have been maybe like 300. So the first like full half of the book didn't need to be that long. Didn't need to go into that much detail. We kind of were doing the same thing over and over again. And once we got to action, it was great, but the action was so small compared to how big this book is. So this is what, like our 6th book in the series. So I don't want to spoil anything, but it really follows Kale, which is one of the characters you first met in the Throne of Glass book, which is the first book. It really follows what he went and did while the events of Enemy of the Storm were taking place, which is the 6th book. No, the 5th book. What day? I don't even know. When the events of the 5th book were happening over there, this is what Kale did on this side of the world. So now we only have 1 book left, Kingdom of Ash, which is back here somewhere. I need to pull that out because I need to finish this series this year, otherwise I'm never going to finish it. So Sarah and I are going to buddy read it in December. But I'm going to say I gave this a 4 stars, which is really kind of stretching it just because I felt 3 stars wasn't... Like, I'm so glad I read it. I'm just torn as to what to even rate it because 4 stars still seems like a little much. 3.75 maybe? I'm not sure. If you're into the series, still pick up the book. Just know that it's a little slow to begin with. You could even probably skip some parts. But you need to know certain aspects of it, so I don't even know what to tell you to do. Who knows? Let's go to the next book. Then I picked up Obsidio by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is the 3rd book in the Illuminae Files series. Like, I'm mourning the fact that this journey is over, yet so glad I read it. I am not a sci-fi girl, not even close, but this series is fantastic. It is told in such a unique way that it is basically one big case file that's put together for you. That starts out with the Illuminae files, with the first book, Illuminae. There we are talking way in the future. We're talking in space. A planet gets attacked by a company illegally, and we go from there. But the way this is brought together was fantastic. The way it wrapped it all up, the fact that I hadn't read Illuminae for a while, yet I could still easily, very easily follow along with what's happening without having to have huge recaps. It was just glorious. I read this in a weekend. It took me 2 weeks to read this beast and 1 weekend to read this beast. So if that tells you anything of the level of intensity in this book. So 5 stars for Obsidio. It was fantastic. And then I have a very random book that I very randomly picked up in a library, which is why I'm such a proponent of still being able to browse libraries, because I never, ever would have sought out this book within an online library catalog, ever. Yet I'm so excited that I found this book just sitting on a shelf and I happened to pick it up. It is The Murder of King Tut. James Patterson and Martin Dugard wrote this. It is a nonfiction book. So James Patterson did his history. He did his research. Well, I'm sure Martin did a little bit more research, but James Patterson put this all together as to what happened to King Tut and then who discovered him and kind of how that all happened. James Patterson kept with his typical writing style, his love for short chapters, which helped keep me very engaged. We kind of bopped back and forth to King Tut and what was actually happening there, and then to what's his name, Howard Carter. I almost called him Howie, or no, I almost called him Henry. Howard Carter in the early 1900s when he discovered his King Tut's tomb, and then there's even a few chapters in here from James Patterson's perspective and kind of where his thought process was and how he came about discovering what happened to King Tut. Or putting it all together, what happened to King Tut. So it was fantastic. It's short. I mean, I read this in a matter of days. So interesting, and I'm now down this big old rabbit hole of Egyptian legend and pharaohs and all that fun stuff. So, like I said, random find at the library, just happened to pick it up. Again, I never would have sought this book out, but I'm so glad I did. I'm totally 4 stars. It's worth picking up. Again, it's short. If you like a good little fiction book, add this to your pile. It was good, surprisingly. All right, so those are the 5 books I read in November. Not too bad considering, again, how big they were. I am currently sitting at 76 books read for the year, which is insane. I've never read that many books in a year. I would love to hit 80, so I just have to read 4 books in November or in December, which I should be able to do, hopefully. I don't want to make promises. It's 2020, by the way, you know, you never know. So I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of what my plan is for December. It's very loosey-goosey right now, so I'm not even going to call this a TBR because I'm not going to get to all of these. But this is kind of the books. There's the ones that are kind of hanging out on my end table in the living room, just, you know, speaking to me. So first couple I picked up from the library. We have How the Penguin Saved Veronica by Hazel Pryor. I'm not even really sure what this is about because just my friend Julie read it and she liked it, and I feel like I just picked it up, so we're gonna try it. And then the other one I picked up is The Forgotten Daughter by Joanna Goodman. She wrote the book Home for Unwanted Girls, which I loved, and I still think of that book, and the nun in that book is, oh my God, crazy. Another one that I don't really know, let's see, it's the follow-up actually to the Home for Unwanted Girls. Tells the moving and triumphant story inspired by two events of two women divided by their past but united in love. I started reading a little bit, I'm like maybe 10 pages into it, and definitely get that like sister vibe going on so far, so we'll see what happens. But I'm really excited for this one, like I want to get to that now. We have a community read going on with the kids' school, so we're reading The Vanderbeekers of 141st Street. This is a middle grade book, I would say, maybe. And it takes place over Christmas, which I'm super excited about. The kids started reading it this morning during their read alouds, so I kind of want to keep up with them. It's just a few chapters a day. It's really not too big of a deal, but it follows the family of the Vanderbeekers. It's really centered around their children. It's 5 days before Christmas, and their curmudgeonly landlord for some reason refuses to renew their lease, and so they have a very short period of time to change his mind before New Year's. They just have to show how wonderful they are, and I'm sure things go awry and it's crazy, and I just can't wait to read it. So that's for sure on the list. I have a couple other Christmassy books I want to get to. I really need to read, and I want to read The Merriest Magnolia by Michelle Major. Actually, I may pick up this next. I could use a good like palette cleanser. This follows the Magnolia sisters. I read the first book, which, yeah, was the Magnolia sisters. I'm like, why is that? It sounded wrong, but it did. I read the first book not that long ago. It takes place in North Carolina, follows these three sisters who didn't really realize they were sisters until their father passed away. And they're kind of trying to help the town come back to life. I can only imagine how cute and festive and wonderfully Christmassy this is going to be. I can't wait for that. I've had Kristen Hanna's Comfort and Joy on my shelf for a long time, and I have yet to read this. This is her Christmas book. I'm not hearing the best reviews of it, so I think that's what's stopping me, yet I can't get myself to like donate the book because I just feel like I should read it. So we're gonna add this to the list as well. It says a modern day fairy tale. Joy Candelaro used to love Christmas more than any other time of year. I'm like picturing Hallmark movie, I guess is what I'm thinking. Now as the holiday approaches, she finds herself at loose ends, recently divorced and estranged from her sister. She can't summon the old enthusiasm for celebrating. I feel your pain there, Joy, because I'm not there this year. So without telling one, she buys a ticket and boards a plane bound for the rural Northwest. Maybe that's what I need to do. Yet Joy's best laid plans go terribly awry. The plane crashes deep in the darkness of a forest. Joy and her fellow passengers walk away from the wreckage, and there amid the towering trees, Joy makes a bold and desperate decision to leave her ordinary life behind and embark on an adventure just for the holidays. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But then I have these three sitting there as well, because I would love to keep making progress on my series. This last month I made big progress on series that I've been reading, and I kind of want to keep that momentum going. I know for sure I will fly through Wondersmith, The Calling of Morgan Crow, considering I think the third book just came out. So I'm not even allowing myself to buy that book until I read this book. So Morgan Crow, this follows the story of Morgan Crow and how she kind of escapes death, where she was destined to die when she's 11. She escapes death and goes with Juniper and goes to the place of Nevermore, and it's this whole thing. It's fantastic. It's middle grade, maybe YA. I mean, it's just fun. Then I have Blood Oath by Melissa Lenhart. This is the second book. The first one was Sawbones. It follows a doctor who had to kind of escape into the Wild West to avoid prosecution for a crime she did not commit but was totally framed for. And she finds herself, I guess, I want to say kind of Colorado, I think is where she's ended up at the end of Sawbones. But this kind of just continues her story as there's this big bounty on her head. She's trying to disappear, yet she can't ignore her skills as being a doctor, but yet that gives her away. It's a whole thing. It's a great like kind of Wild West frontier type story, which I'm still in the mood for. And then Scythe's second book, Thunderhead by Neil Schusterman. Scythe followed two apprentices. Oh, pizza's done. I'll be right back. So in Scythe, we have these two apprentices that we're following that are learning to be scythes, and scythes are the only people who are allowed to kill other people, because in this futuristic world we live in, we have defied death, but we have to still keep our population under control. So Thunderhead's the second book to that. Another very fast pace. I flew through Scythe, so I have a feeling I will fly through Thunderhead as well. It just, yeah, it's amazing. And the third book is out, and what is it called? The Toll, I think. And again, I'm not allowing myself to buy it until I read this one. So that's quite a stack of books. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books for December. But let me tell you about our life in December. We don't have one. We don't. We got nothing. So what else to do but read, because it is my happy thing. It is what's holding this whole show together right now. So pile up the good books and snuggle in, because that's about all that's going on for my life in December. Anyways, comment below. Let me know what you've read in the month of November. Let me know if there's anything on my not official TBR you think I should pick up sooner than later. Otherwise, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.